Hey everyone, Animal Man again. Welcome to the introduction to family preparedness. This is going to be a very big group of videos I'm going to be doing. It's very important too. So I want to start by saying that first of all, this is not preparing for the end of the world or the zombie apocalypse or any of that crazy stuff. What your focus should be is preparing for the everyday things that happen to people like you and me all the time. And that should be the focus. And in time, if you do it, if you do your preparations well, you'll be able to be prepared for larger and larger type of things that may occur. So I want to look at the probability of various types of threats to people. And what you'll notice with this is that the lower the number of people affected, the higher the probability is that that you're going to be the one it's going to affect, that it's going to happen to you. And that's the way this kind of usually works. So we're going to talk about low probability situations first. I'll give you some examples of it. So low probability things would be like a pandemic, a widespread around the world outbreak of some kind of disease, like a flu, something like that. So that affects everybody around the world, worldwide, but the chances of that happening are very tiny. So we're not going to worry about that much. You've got, a global thermonuclear war, which could happen, I guess. It's not likely to happen. We're probably never going to see it in our lifetime happen, I hope, knock on wood. We have an asteroid impact like we think may have destroyed the dinosaurs. Asteroids impact our planet all the time, but usually they go into the ocean or they're so small they don't really mess anything up. But it's possible a big one could come, but not very probable it's going to come. And then you have like electromagnetic pulse from the sun, and the odds of that happening on the scale that would affect the electrical grids around the world or even across the whole country is very small, but it is possible. So those are things that you don't really have to worry about that much. Now we come to the things that have a medium probability, that they could happen. It's still not super likely, but they do happen, but it affects a medium number of people also. So things like this would be like regional disasters. You've got like riots, which can happen. They're happening around the country now for different things. You've got hurricanes, ice storms, tornadoes, blizzards, flooding, things like that. So these are more like regional type things having to do with the weather for the most part. And they can affect, your state or your area of the country. So it affects not the whole world, but still, if it affects your whole state, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. So this is our medium area. So these are things that do happen a lot that you should be thinking about a little bit, I think. So then the last category here are high probability events. Some of these are very high probability events. And these are the things that tend to affect just you, one person, or me, and they might affect maybe just your household, your family, or they may branch out to affect your family and friends, or maybe you and your neighbors, like your neighborhood. So things like this are if your house burns down, if you are robbed, or if there's a home invasion, if you're mugged, things like that. Power outages would fit in this category. If a loved one is terminally ill, or God forbid somebody passes away. So these are things that happen to people all the time. And even though it may not be the end of the world, like in the biblical terms, Armageddon, that type of thing, it certainly could spell the end of the world as you know it, at least, which is a big deal. These are life-changing events, and these are happening to people all the time. So to me, what makes sense is these are the major things that you should be aware of, number one. Hopefully now you are, if you weren't. And these are the things that you should prepare for and train for. When I teach wilderness survival, which I'm going to be having a lot of videos on that too, when I teach that, I teach there are 4 major basic survival needs. And there's an order of importance. So the first one is shelter. You need to have a shelter. And then you need to have water, then you need to have fire, and then food's last. And it's kind of funny, food is the last on the list, least important, because you can go the longest without food, but in survival it is the thing that takes the most amount of your time, just finding food, preparing food all the time. So that's survival. Now with family preparedness, you've got the same kind of thing, but there's 6. There's not 4 anymore, there's 6 basic survival needs. So most of it's the same. It starts with shelter, so your home, that's your shelter. Then you've got water. Instead of fire, we substitute that for energy, because it's kind of the same thing with the home and modern people. It's not just all about fire, although that is part of it. It's energy, electricity, fuel, all that stuff, so energy. And then you've got the food, just like before. And then you add 2 additional things. You've got security, and you've got health and sanitation. So those are the 6 big ones, the 6 big categories you need to address for a disaster. And the basics for all these 6 categories, they don't cost a lot of money. They don't take that long to do. They don't require any, for the most part, I don't think they require any special equipment. I'm going to teach you guys how to do almost everything super cheap or for free. And so this should be attainable for everybody, I think, even if you don't have time, don't have a lot of money, things like that. And how I feel is, like, if you have a wife or a husband or grandkids, anybody that you love, I firmly believe that you have an obligation, just as a responsible adult, to be able to take care of them if something happens, and not have to rely on other people hoping that they'll bail you out or take care of them for you, or people think the government's going to come to their rescue. And as we saw in Katrina, that's not always the case. There's too many people, and it just doesn't happen all the time like that. So I'm going to do my best here with these videos to enable you as best I can, as quickly as I can. And if you decide to follow my example, that's wonderful. I hope everybody who watches this does. And I hope, even if you're not going to do all the things we're going to get into, hopefully just pick one thing. Maybe one video will click for you. You do one thing, and at least you'll be better off than you were before. And hopefully you'll at least be more aware of what can happen and what you need to do then when it happens. So always remember, nobody cares about you and your family as much as you do. And not me, not anybody else. Not saying I don't care, I do care, but not as much as you do. And no one is going to do this for you. It's totally up to you. So we've got a lot of work to do. Good luck to us all.